Alright, try this again. I got an extra camera. I'm going to see how the audio is. Hopefully it's good. I'm not sure if anyone's watching, but if you are, let me know. Hold on 1 second. I am quite new to this. Okay. Let's see what I can do here. Okay. All right. So this is my friend's made in Japan. If you know anything about these Fender Teles, you have the hollow spot. They've got these wide range pickups, also made by Seth Lover. Not sure about these. The originals came out in I think the early 70s, and you can see on the back here. Oops, what did I just drop? Okay, on a good way to start off. Oh, let's see what it is. String ferrule. Okay, we're all right. There it is. Sits inside the strings. Anyway, made in Japan. He's upgraded this to the different saddles, and they kind of mellow it out. Fenders tend to be kind of snappy and bright. He also has a LSR nut in here, and we checked it with the fret rocker, and I don't know if you can hear that, but you get a straight edge device, you put it across 3 frets. If it rocks, that means the middle one's higher. So I've done several of these. I'm not a professional by any means, but basically what you want to do is get the neck completely straight, and then we're going to mark up the frets with a black magic marker. I have this I got from StewMac. If you have a compound radius, then you wouldn't be able to do that. But you can see here it's 9.5, and I'll put some 220 on here. These frets are really tiny, so I want to be really careful. I don't want to take too much off of this. So any little amount I can do is going to help, and then you can always change the relief to take away the buzz. He actually had the high E string up higher than the low E, which probably isn't normal. Some people go flat. I prefer the thinner strings to be lower because they don't rotate as much, because they have less mass, so they don't need as much space without buzzing. So we'll see that afterwards anyway. So I have this, okay, which is a straight edge, and it's notched out for the frets. It has 2 different scales. That's upside down. There we go. I'll learn this camera stuff in a minute. So I'm just going to place this across here, and I have tightened up the truss rod on the top. It's got one of these bullet truss rods because it is a copy of the 70s, and I got this thing as flat as possible. I kind of turned this. You always want to be careful when you're adjusting the truss rod. And so it's just like screwing on a bottle cap. You know, some people get confused. The tighter it is, it's going to turn this whole thing this way into a frowny face, if you want to say. The strings, of course, are pulling the neck that way, and they want to make it into a smiley face, so that's the counteraction. But, you know, a little bit goes a lot. Well, that actually moved a little. Before it wasn't moving. I could feel that it was just kind of bending. And you just want to be super careful, because it's better that it's a little bit not where you want it than it is broken. So there's still just a tiniest of the gaps, but we're going to go with that. So let's see, where is my, hold on a second, let me get the marker. Okay, so again, I'm just going to take this Sharpie, and you want to be careful of the fretboard. I'm just going to draw some lines across here. You can see this is well played. My friend is a very good blues guitarist here in Sacramento. His name is Jimmy Pailer, P-A-I-L-E-R. And he's on the web and on YouTube if you look him up. Really a monster player. Taught me a lot, so I try to help him out by working on his guitars. I also had to remove a treble bleed that he put on, and it was making the guitar still a little too bright. If you're not familiar, when you roll down the volume typically on a guitar, then you start losing some of the high end. Now some people prefer that because it kind of mellows the tone, but some people like the guitar to stay the same sound. So you run a capacitor. This is what he had on there, and you run this across the volume, and basically it leaks out some of the treble back between the positive and the negative on the volume control. Okay, so let's see here. This is my other one. This is a 12-inch radius, and it is for a Gibson. So there's different ways to do this. I think when you buy it from StewMac, you can buy these sheets that are cut for the block, and maybe with adhesive on it already. But I will show you what I do. Okay. So I just buy the paper, and this is 220 grit, or this is actually 320. As I said, I want to be real careful how much I take off. I don't want to be too aggressive. You might be able to see this also, that typically from guitar playing, you get these divots in the frets. So even if it cleans that up a little bit, I'll be happy. Apparently these are two different lengths. My big head blocking. Okay. So I'm just gonna stick that on there. These wrinkles aren't the best to have. Okay, and I've got this right here. This is double-sided tape, pressure-sensitive tape that you use when you're using a router and you want to hold the piece in place, and then you have a guide, and you have a guide bearing that you go around. So I find this works really well to keep this on there. And then because this radius is the exact radius of the fretboard, and again it's not compound, then I'm just going to lightly sand this, and the highest spots will come off first, and that's where the black marker is. So let's see, let's give it a couple of passes here. Like that. Let's trim. Oh, I should have had all my tools here. Hold on. Handy dandy razor. Big fan of a straight razor. So maybe you're watching and you're like, you know, I want to try and do this, but I don't want to mess up my guitar. I'm concerned about that. When I first did it, I started with a Squire or a cheap guitar, and that made it less nerve-wracking. This is a straight file, and if you have a compound radius, or you know more what you're doing, then you can take this and rub this up and down, and it's just kind of, you're just kind of using the radius on here. This also is good for cleaning up the edges here. I learned that from Phil McKnight, Know Your Gear. And you can put a nice little crown on the side of them too. But this one's pretty old and it's worn, but I might do that at the end. Alright, so let's see what we get here. This one's a little more bulletproof because it's the radius of the fretboard. Okay, not sure how well you can see that, but a lot of the marker is gone. But we've got a couple of spots here where there's still some, and that means those spots are lower than everything else. You can see here on the outside it's lower. So basically I'll just keep making passes until all the markers gone, except maybe up here, because some of these are getting kind of deep. So if you're not sure, this is the leveling part. And the crowning part, what happens is these get flat spots on the top of them, and that's bad for intonation. So then I'm going to use a file and put a crown back on it. Yeah. Okay. It's like the outside edges are lower, which means I'm taking off meat from the middle. Which is good. We still got some outside here. looks like the middles were kind of high on this. Let's do a little more. Pretty close. Check with this again. It's definitely better. These were particularly out. Still got a rock there. Could be a little more helpful to use a heavier grit paper, but I'm trying to go slow. You can take off from the frets, but you can't put back on. It's probably obvious. So I'm not sure if you could see, but these are really getting flat there. And that's going to need a crown. Let's just check this again right quick. Almost got the marker off the outside. It's getting pretty low now, so I don't really want to take too much more off. The other thing you always got to check for is this fret bouncing or coming out loose, because then you'll never get it straight. That's good. Okay. I think that's probably why some folks prefer jumbo frets, because there's left more than's left. So this is two-sided center file. They make different versions. This one's kind of the easiest for folks that are not as experienced. And I marked it here because sometimes it's hard to see. So again, I'm going to click the marker. And, you know, the whole idea is that the fret is kind of like this right now because I shaved the top off of it. And then when you take the file, it's going to shave these corners and make it more that. That's what you want. You want a single point. Makes it better for intonation. Start from this side this time. Okay, so let's see how this works here. Okay, probably let's see a before and after. So you can see solid black line. I'm doing this one here, and I'm just gonna keep running through slow passes, getting all the fret until that black line gets to be very, very skinny. Now, depending on how low your frets are, you might not be able to get it completely thin, because if this piece is bottoming out on the wood, then it's just not going to get any lower. You can see we're getting a nice metal on the side and lines in the center. So they also make a Z file, and with that one you do one side and then you turn and you do the other side. A little more difficult as far as knowing what you're doing. Or you can just take a file or straight up and just do one side and the other, but you got the radius to deal with, so this one probably takes a little more work, but it's safer, so that's why I do it. I think I want to get that Z file and try, but this is diamond, so that it can cut the metal in there like $100. So, oops. So if the frets are lower like these, after a bit, you're going to find that even if you keep running passes, it's not really taking anything off. So, and at that point, I just move to the next one. Now I could take the neck off, but I prefer to do it with the neck on. It's less work. Neck pocket or screws or holes could get loose if you keep taking the neck off. Plus then it's the same exact system even if I have a glued in neck. I don't have to kind of do it a little different. Now once you get to the body, can't really run across, so you have to do one side and then flip it over. Going to work? Okay. Dude. Okay, let's do the outside of these ones, higher ones. Okay, let's see what we got. So hopefully you can see the difference between these and these that I have not touched yet. It's thicker. Ideally, I'd like that line a little bit thinner, but that's all I can do with the tool I got now. So. This is another file that's nice. This has a flat side, and this is the file edge, and then this is a round side, so this will not damage the fretboard. And what I use that for is taking the corners off here. You kind of rub on your hand down here, and you feel a little sharp edge. Kind of knock that down, so when you use the round side down, it won't cut into the fretboard. And that kind of takes that sharp, but you do that last. So, all right, let's keep going and see what we get. It's still kind of wide. So these last couple ones here. Definitely cleaning it up. Okay. Pretty good. Okay. Just see here, we can take this just gently. Just kind of angling it to create just a little bit of a beveled edge. Doesn't affect the sound. It's more for comfort. Just a little bit. Okay. again, I'm gonna use this round part down. Just kind of round it over. Just a little. You can see how beat up this fretboard is already, so it's pretty much well worn in. Make sure I get the right side facing. Okay. Turn it around. Some of these don't even really need it. Worn down from years of playing. Okay. Okay, now the last thing is the polish. I could go with, I have all of this. micro mesh, which goes way up to the high things, from like 600 to 12,000. Also, this is a nice, cool thing to have. We've got this one first, and then that's a less aggressive, and then this is the polished part. So let's see what happens if we just do this. And you can see that takes off the remaining marker. If I was going to use these, then I would probably tape off the whole fretboard. And also, if, you know, the guitar wasn't as worn, then I'm going to be way more careful. Okay, and then I'm going to follow this one. Oh, let me do the other side first, actually. Something that I learned when I was doing wood floors is when you change grit, you want to brush off and clean up, because the residue could actually like increase the grit. So if you're sanding with 60 grit and then you change to 100 and you don't clean the floor, then it could still be sanding with 60 because of the pieces that are left on the floor. So I always wipe the guitar down really well when I change grits. If you're doing this for the first time too, it could be tough on your fingers, so make sure you take breaks or you could maybe injure yourself. Okay, now we're on the white. After you do the first one, then you don't really have to do these as long. Okay. You can see this little stick cleans them up pretty nice if you're just looking for kind of a quick polish. And then we'll finish with this side. If you're cleaning the fretboard and it's a nicer conditioned guitar, be aware that you have different oils or conditioners that you can use on maple versus ebony and rosewood, and also whether or not the maple is finished or not. Some fretboards are not finished, like Ernie Ball. And those, if you don't keep on them and clean them a lot, then they're just going to get dirty, and the dirt gets into the grain, and there's not a lot you could do after that. So, some people use lemon oil on maple, but this is a finished. So I'll just hit it with one of those Ernie Ball fretboard cleaner. Just kind of wipe it down. And that's it. Alright. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't. I'm still learning this streaming, so I think the video will stay up. If you have comments, even if you catch this, years from now, whatever, you let me know. I'll try to answer it as best as possible. Hopefully it helps somebody. Very good. Thank you.